Hi, welcome to my channel. I have a special guest with me today who's called Vin Rampal. And Vin used to host the Law of Attraction group in Qatar about 8 years ago. And he's still hosting Law of Attraction groups in Malaysia. He's done a TED talk also while he was in Qatar on the Law of Attraction. And he's possibly one of the few people I know that has mountains and mountains of knowledge all about the Law of Qatar. I don't know if Abraham has as much knowledge as Alvin here. He also runs numerous personal development groups. And I do think if he wasn't involved in the corporate world, that he would probably have a large ashram and lots of followers or something, because he is so knowledgeable. He's read so many books and he knows so many things about so many things. But anyway, I'll let Vin tell you all about that. So over to Vin. Vin, when did you start with all of this interest? And was it Law of Attraction that you were initially attracted to, or was there something else that led on to it?
Okay, no, thanks for this, Veena. It's really nice to be here. I think Veena, you're far too generous with your accolades with me, but thank you so much. And well, it's nice to know that I could be in an ashram with lots of followers. So in case if I ever need a recession-proof job, I know what's in the what can be in the background of a plan C and a plan D if things don't go according to plan. Yeah, but thank you so much for that. No, but you're far too generous.
I've always seen you that way, Vin.
Oh well, okay. Thanks. I've never seen myself that way, so thank you. Yeah. So in terms of okay, so how I got into this whole thing. Okay, so it's actually very interesting. So ever since I was extremely young, I've always had an intention and sort of understanding of how nice would it be if I could actually use my imagination to manipulate the world. This was an intention that I had ever since I was a young child. And I would literally be playing in my mind about how I could move objects or would be able to use my imagination to affect the place around me. So, of course, my parents would have thought that, oh, he's just daydreaming or he's playing in his mind. But I had a very, very clear kind of understanding or a desire to be able to just shift reality through my thoughts, my desires, or my imaginations, right? So that's something I had since I was 5, 6 years old. And then I think at the age of 12, it started getting very materialistic in nature because I read the book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And ever since then, I read that book. I thought, wow, I could use my mind to manipulate and change and get whatever I want from reality. And then, of course, that then began my foray into the law of attraction and the whole, all of the works of many of the great law of attraction teachers. You mentioned Abraham. I definitely would not want to consider myself even on par with her at all, just because of I think just generally, since I owe so much to all these masters, to all these great teachers, and I'm just grateful for all of them, for everything they've taught me. So of course I studied the different teachers in the law of attraction, the new thought movement. So that would be your whole many teachings of the mystics. So that would be the Hermetic principles, the Hermetic teachings, all the way through Western and Eastern occult theology, and anything and everything almost to do with getting to that point where I could actually be a master of my reality. So that was sort of my foundation of my foundation in terms of where I actually went on to and went in terms of this whole law of attraction thing. And of course, I put it all into practice. I put it all into practice in terms of trying to get my professional career up there, in terms of fulfilling whatever desires I would want to have, whether that be material desires or spiritual desires or just plain old career, wealth, goals, whatever it is, relationship desires. And I used these principles to go out there and achieve it. And then what happened was I eventually just kept growing in my spiritual journey. And I've come to a stage of understanding that it's actually a whole lot more simpler than what I had initially thought, or what I'd have actually studied from a lot of these masters and teachers. It's a whole lot more simpler process.
Before we go into the simpler processes, can I just ask you then, because you said relationships, material well-being, and spiritual things. So in each of those categories, so before you, if you don't mind me saying, you have a very lovely wife, very beautiful and lovely children, a really lovely family. Did you use law of attraction techniques to attract your wife, or did you think about that after you had already met?
No, I did.
Well, that worked a treat then, Vin.
Huh? What?
That worked a treat because she's so lovely. Your wife is just so lovely.
Thank you. Well, you see, the interesting thing was, I met my wife when I was 16, and the day before I met her, I put out an intention to the universe that I want to meet my soulmate. The day before, and it was an invocation to the universe, to the feminine aspect of the universe, that I would like to meet my soulmate. And I met her the next day after doing that invocation. So I definitely owe it to God, the universe, for being able to meet her. The thing is, I need to be really clear about this whole thing about, if you ask me 5 years ago, no, even 7 years ago, I would have said I manifested it. I manifested the wife, I manifested the goals and the career and what everything else. But the more I'm delving into the subject matter now, I'm understanding that it was not just me as a individual that was manifesting it through my thoughts and my minds, but it was actually the greater universe at play that was manifesting through me. And that's sort of where I'm at in terms of my law of attraction practice. And now if someone says to me, oh, wow, you manifested this and you manifested that, I feel kind of almost like I'm taking credit for something which is essentially God's work or the universe at work. Although on the relative plane of existence, someone would say, oh, you manifested it, you worked hard, your thoughts did it, you did your visualizations and all of that. On the surface level, yes, that's what it is. But I'm understanding now deeper, at a much deeper level, that it was all just the universe in motion and the greater aspect of the universe flowing through me that allowed those manifestations to happen. And I think this is a really important demarcation, because it essentially results in what makes a manifestation work versus what when it doesn't work, and it's directly proportionate to your self-identity and how loose the ego is in relation to being able to manifest. So if you think,
can I ask you then, you mentioned about, I mean, that was very fast what you said about manifesting your soulmates in literally overnight, in one day. So you had the desire on one day. Some people have that desire for many, many years before their soulmate will turn up. So that was one thing. And the other thing is that you've said is that some things don't manifest. So would you just like to share with us what kind of things you see as blockages to us manifesting our dreams?
You see, if we look at life, life is a magnificent manifestation all on its own. Right now, we go out there and we look at the planets and what's happening in the stars and these beautiful conjunctions that are happening. Even every day, we wake up and just look at the sun rising and whatnot. It's an extremely gorgeous, beautiful, 1 in a trillion chance scientific improbability of it occurring, and it is occurring in front of our eyes. It's a magnificent manifestation already. When we say that our manifestations don't exist or don't come to pass, it is very simply our expectations of how things should be that are not being met.
Right. Okay.
That's basically it. If I say, let's say,
programming, right? That would be to do with our programming, because, you know, I think for many of us that we weren't brought up, say, for example, we were brought up with religion before. And I think that was rather purposeful, that we had religion first and then ideas on manifestation came later. So then we learned very rigid ideas about how things should be. And then later on, when we learned about the law of attraction, we then learned that actually we can have what we like, we can reach our goals, but in the time that we were following other things, society, TV programs, media, all the things influence, it gave us certain expectations. And what you're saying is those expectations are really the things that are blocking us from just being able to visualize what we want and have it very easily. Am I understanding that correctly?
The expectations, if it does not arise in the way that we want, we assume that it's not working out. That's the big problem. Let's say, for example, I want to go out and have a good day and it starts to rain. But my preconceived notion of a good day is that it doesn't rain because of my limited human mind body complexity. I say, I want to go and have a good day today, but oh no, it's raining, and then the rain has caused the traffic jam, and oh no, it's not going according to how I want. This is an extremely, and then we say, oh, I was not able to manifest the day that I wanted. Or you will say, oh, I'm not vibrating high enough, and that's why I'm having such a bad day. That's actually a wrong concept, because what our mind has been trained to expect as right and wrong is extremely limited from what our universal mind believes to be right and correct at that specific time. We do not have, we have a very limited understanding of how the universe should play out. And when we project our egoic self's point of view upon how the world should be, then we would say that, oh, what I'm manifesting isn't coming to pass. But we are not that limited egoic self. We are much greater than that. So there's a much bigger intelligence at play that is actually working through everything that needs to happen in order for us to get what we desire, but we just can't see it. We just can't see it. And so what we do is we project our expectations and say, oh, it's not working out. This should have happened. That should have happened. But no, that is not the case. The universe is constantly and always working in our favor, but we just have the limited foresight to see it as that.
Yeah, it's interesting you should say that, because I think it's probably not the case where even just the feeling of gratitude, to be able to say on a daily basis, I'm grateful for the sea, I'm grateful for sun and sand, I'm grateful for warm weather, and to keep that feel good happening. Actually, I started journaling. I was given a journal as a birthday present, and I started to journal. And I did it for fun. I didn't do it because I felt that I needed to journal, although it's nice to do that. I do write down important things, but I don't keep it all in one journal. And it was really interesting because the other day, it was asking about emotions. What emotions were you feeling? And it was in the morning when I did it. And in that morning, I'd had so many different emotions, and we weren't even at lunchtime. And I thought, wow, they've only left 4 spaces here to journal emotions. And I've been through highs and lows and gratitude and all kinds of things. So I
Yeah.
could have filled out a lot more, actually. So it's really interesting, unless you really look at what you're feeling. You would probably end up just feeling the same old emotions, the habitual emotions from the past.
Yeah, and that's our conditioning. That's nothing but our conditioning. And every time we express gratitude and we build these positive emotions, essentially what we're doing is we're building upon new conditioning upon our nervous system and our body and mind complex, which is a good thing, which is not a wrong thing. You know, but if all of that can get out of the way, if all our conditioning, if we can just see it as what it is, which is just nothing but conditioning. So even expectations, say you wish to manifest something and it doesn't occur, right? That is also a conditioning. That's a conditioning of an expectation to occur, right? But if you just have a deeper knowing that everything in life is exactly as how it should be, and where we are is perfectly where we're supposed to be, what occurs is you've actually then got the secret to instant manifestation. You actually can cut short the whole traditional law of attraction process, because if you are inherently fulfilled and you're inherently and unconditionally happy, regardless of anything that occurs, if then something happens in your reality to stop you from becoming happy, the universe will automatically try to resolve that for you, whatever obstacle that might be. Or if there is a natural desire that arises, the universe will want to fulfill it immediately and as fast a way as possible, even before you can even ask of the universe. The universe will try its best to fulfill it for you. Because the universe doesn't like a void. It doesn't like a gap in its experience of itself. So if we are naturally have built ourselves to be unconditionally happy, to reach that state where, irregardless of circumstances that occur in front of us or in our experience, whether it makes us feel sad or it makes us feel good, behind that whole facade in front of our consciousness, behind all of that, there's that pure state of bliss, that pure state of being, which is at the forefront of your experience, and we make that the primary objective of our lives, then naturally all these things that we call manifestations will just occur, and it will occur in the fastest, most effortless, most synchronatic way, without us even almost having to do anything.
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I have noticed that for many years, on the one hand, people have desires, lots and lots of desires, and sometimes we don't particularly know which desires might actually be good for us. So, for example, we might desire something big and huge, and then not really, and get that thing and not really be aware of the associated costs with that thing. So, for example, I got a car a long time ago that was a BMW, and I think maybe I got it because it had the brand BMW. Anyway, the thing was a complete money drainer, because every spare penny used to go. There always used to be something wrong with it. So although I had this fabulous car, and it was fabulous, I think it was a lesson for me. I'm not talking about BMWs in general, because it was marvelous with the things that it did do. You didn't even know the engine was on. It was so silent. But everything that could go wrong with it went wrong. And they used to say, oh, this doesn't normally happen. This doesn't. And it was a big lesson for me, because money just poured, all the savings just kept pouring into this car all the time. So sometimes we can be protected from getting that particular BMW, because another car might be just so much better, so much more cost effective, and be serving us rather than kind of giving us a hard time. So I think, you know, in what you said, that sometimes we can be protected from our own desires. The other
Yeah.
thing that you were talking about, which I've observed, is that there are people who are not concerned about having big things and having lots of things, and they don't even worry about money. And I've found personally that the people that are the lightest, most bubbly, fun-loving people, they seem to just attract money. They just seem to not think too much about it, but they're never really worried about it. Money just seems to come to them and they spend it, and it comes to them and they spend it. And it's never a worry, and they just seem to be happy. So I've observed that the happiest people tend to get what they want. It just tends to flow to them. I don't know if you've noticed that yourself.
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, one of my mentors who I actually discovered through, technically was a fluke. We were discussing certain metaphysical, and we were debating certain metaphysical concepts online in one of these very recluse, very niche forums on these metaphysical concepts. And I actually messaged on the forum and I said, oh, you know, this is also easy for you because, you know, I'm a working person. I have kids. I have a job. I have to put bread on the table. I've got to, you know, do the 9 to 5 grind. And for you, you know, you're probably some monk sitting somewhere. And so that was my message to this guy. And I didn't know who he was. He was just on one of these very niche metaphysical forums. And he PM'd me, he private messaged me, and he said, no, this is, he said, do you know who I am? And I said, no, I do not know who you are. You know, I don't know. I've never met you, whatever. And he says, well, this is my LinkedIn profile. Check me out. And he sends me his LinkedIn profile. And he says, look, I have a $1.8 billion portfolio. I'm one of the C-suite, C-level executives for this energy company. And he sent me this LinkedIn. And we had been like debating and messaging each other on this, you know, this forum, discussing these deep truths for weeks, right? And I, you know, he had no reason to show off to me. And then he just says, look, but I'm just sending you this so that you know that, you know, you don't have to be a monk. I am a corporate person and I'm running you know, I have a portfolio of $1 billion plus under me in energy. And all my success, I can give credit to these practices that I'm talking about now. And that is when it shook me. And that's when I kind of took him as my mentor. And he has given me certain examples in his life, which I would just tell you an example where there were times where he would not even need, he would go for a presentation and he would not prepare. He would just ask his inner guidance in terms of whether he should deliver the presentation or not. And the presentations would be on very technical topics, things like nanotechnology or, you know, the latest kinds of technical kind of stuff, engineering related subjects. And if his inner guidance would say yes, he would just go and he would speak. And when he would speak with all the intelligence of an expert in the field, but he would not even have read a book. So he told me that he had these experiences and he was just constantly being connected to source throughout. He had so many stories. This is one of his stories. He had stories about him when he was a stockbroker and how he used to call out these stocks and, you know, the ones that would make the most money. And he didn't even have a desire for money. He had no desires for it, but he just ended up being in these positions where he earned so much, you know, and he's just one miracle after the other miracle after the other miracle. And he was sharing this with me. And that's when I actually said, okay, let me try to apply these techniques. And that's what I've been doing. That's what I've been trying to do. And that's actually sort of shifted my whole journey in this law of attraction thing, because it's the kind of the super master key super master key to law of attraction. It even goes far beyond any of these other YouTube videos you find, which is the master key of law of attraction. This is like the elixir of law of attraction because it's so much more powerful. It delivers so much more benefits to someone. And the formula is this.
I was going to ask you, I was going to say, do you want to give us the key?
Yeah. So the formula, and some people won't like this, but because it's simple to say, difficult to accomplish, but it's worth the journey. That's what I would say. The formula is your ability to manifest whatever you desire is inversely related to your ego, to your identity as a separate self between you and the universe. Because the universe will tend to fulfill impersonal desires. Impersonal desires means the desires that are arising from a non-personal self. So if you have dissolved your ego to the point where you are one with the universe, then any desire that naturally arises in you would not be your desire per se. It would be the universe's desire trying to express itself. And when that occurs, all the forces of nature would strive to fulfill that desire.
Are you in a way, sorry, are you in a way saying that that's a process of surrendering the small I, the ego I, giving that up completely and allowing that space to have that connection with the divine, with source, in order to naturally attract everything without even having desires?
Yeah, absolutely. So surrender is one of the core things that is there, because when you start to surrender, what happens is you're letting go of your grasp of trying to control reality for what it is. And the more you let go, and the more you relax and you release your grasp on trying to force the universe to be a certain way, and you let it go, while still physically taking action, and you're physically doing what you're supposed to do. You're taking all the steps that you need to do on the physical plane. You're not just sitting down and, everything's going to happen. No, you're still, your body mind is still operating as if you're a normal person. But inwardly, you have surrendered, knowing that this body mind contraption of yours, this body mind that you have, is also nothing but is made out of nothing but the carbons and the molecules and the atoms that constitute the universe. So it also is nothing but a functioning aspect of the universe. It is like a wave, realizing that it's a wave, and it tries to merge with the ocean. It's still part of the ocean. It notices it's part of the ocean, right? But it's not saying, oh, I'm a small, tiny wave and this huge sea and I'm going to get crushed by it. No, it says, look, I'm water. The ocean is made out of water. We are one. And I'm just going to go with the flow of this mighty force, right? And the wave is able to ride the ocean, and it's able to do what it wants. It's able to manipulate itself. It's in that same way that we are constitutionally the same part of the universe. So our body, our mind, however it does calculations, whatever it does to change reality, is also part of the universe. And you dissolve the ego that's trying to take and grasp and grab from the universe. That's what you're trying to dissolve, and you're trying to get rid of that.
It sounds to me a little bit like what you're saying is the ego protects you. So you only need protecting when you're frightened. If you're not frightened, you don't need protecting. So the ego wants to protect you, and in a way protects you from being frightened. But then you if you're frightened, it means you're holding on to some fears or another. And it sounds like what you're talking about is blending and harmonizing with the universe, so that you're not holding on to fears, but you're saying, no, I'm part of this wave and I can ride with this wave, whether it's a high ride, a high tide ride up, or whether or not it's just a shallow trickling into the shore, that it's actually harmonized, the I, the essential I, or the divine I, with the universal I in harmony. It sounds like that's what you're describing.
Yeah, absolutely. So in your book, right? In your book, Intention Meditation, you have the final chapter, right? Which is, I think, chapter 5. And it goes on to what tends to happen about a year plus into applying the techniques which you espouse in your book, right? And in there, it talks about how the self-identity starts to change. You highlight that in your book, and you highlight that amongst other sort of characteristics that would happen. So you start becoming one with nature, etc. So it's very much in alignment with what your intention meditation book is in after a year worth of practice. You know, um, was that what you were getting with your book?
Yeah, actually, I do happen to have a copy here to hand. I'll just grab it. Yes. So my book, Intention Meditation, yes. That chapter on changing self-identity, yes, for sure. Because again, with what I was saying earlier about the fact that when we're brought up, we're bombarded by ideas that come from around us as children. And I don't want anyone to think for a minute that I'm saying all of that is wrong. Of course not. That's a place where we get love and nurtured, hopefully the most as well. But it's not always necessarily the case. And these ideas are quite constricting. And I've just found that through meditation, it just allows that tuning into the inside where you can let go. You see ideas that come that no longer are useful, are no longer valuable. And the ego that wants to grab hold of everything and that's frightened, you can let that go slowly because you realize I actually don't have anything to be frightened about. There's a massive universe out there, and all these beings are wandering around on planet Earth, and the animals and the plants and everything. And for the most part, it's fine, it's good, it's safe. Of course, we always hear, unfortunately, in the news things that try to convince us that it's not safe and it's not well and it's not in harmony. But for the most part, if you look at the whole workings of the earth and the universe, there is a harmony there. And so as we let go of that I, that small I that's the ego I, just let it go. There's no need to fight with it or decide I'm going to get rid of it or move it out or anything like that. Just by allowing it to move out, it allows you to experience your true I, your essence that's I, that I actually believe is just all pure qualities. So purity, peace, love, wisdom, bliss, and all good qualities are who we actually are. And then the ego or the fears are manifesting in what we might call the vices or our negative personality traits, ego, attachment, lust, anger, greed, disrespect, all of those kinds of things. So it's a lovely experience to be able to know that you can feel that within. And I think that there's a distinction to be had between feelings and emotions. So feelings are the things that come from the heart or come from inside or a deeper place, and emotions are all the superficial things that we feel on the surface as a consequence of the feelings that come from deep within. And just going into that place of feeling, it's a very beautiful place. And once you've tasted it, it's somewhere that you really don't want to move out of. You want to taste that more and more and bring that more into your life.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And Veena, absolutely. And I know people like that. And I know I've met people like that. Another one of my mentors, he comes from the Himalayas, and he's constantly meditating. Like sometimes he meditates formally sitting down. He meditates 8 hours a day. Literally,
Wow.
and this is in the coldest climate, so he's constantly there. And I've so many experiences with him where, like, I'll just give you an example. One day he was delivering a discourse in my house on spirituality, and his bus was supposed to come at 4:30, and I had to drive him to the bus stand because he was on the way out. He was leaving town, and it was like 4:10 in the evening, and I told him, let's go, like, master, let's go. And he's like, no, it's okay, let me finish. So he kept going on, and it was 4:20, and I'm like, no, master, we have to go now. And like, we have to go now. He's like, no, 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 it's all right. And he's like, then it's like 4:25, and like, we have to go now. So then I drag him and I put him in the bus. That's right, put him in the car and we drive. And then I drive all the way to the station, which is like 10 minutes away. And I thought, that's it, the bus is gone. And next thing, he just casually walks out and he walks to the counter, and the bus is delayed and it's only coming at 5. And that's just one, and he's just really just calm. He's just, and this guy, he only carries one small suitcase. And in this small, tiny suitcase, he has like 2 pairs of changes of clothes. He's a full-on yogi mystic, right? And I've seen that happen numerous times, multiple times. One time I'm driving him, I'm driving him to the airport, another visit, and we're having a discourse like in the car. I'm asking him spiritual questions, he's answering me. And in the middle of the discourse, I'm thinking of a question. I'm going to ask him a question. I have not verbally said it. So I'm thinking of the question. And before I can speak it, he starts to answer it in the middle of the conversation, right? Many examples of him doing all kinds of, clairvoyance, being in tune with the universe, being the best one, all kinds of mystical experiences. And I know that these kind of people exist, and it's beautiful to know them and see them, because that inspires you to see what's possible for your life as well.
What would you say to somebody who would say, oh, but that's boring, you never have to work anything out if you know what time the bus is coming, and you oh, but that's boring, it's not exciting? What would you say to somebody who would say something like that?
When we look at what excites us, okay, like a roller coaster ride, it's so exciting. If you watch a horror movie, it's so exciting. When you notice what attracts us with excitement, it's actually one thing: the stopping of the mind, the stopping of the fluctuations of the mind. When you're on a roller coaster, your mind isn't thinking about past or future. It's just totally engrossed in the moment, and it's like, wow, it's like, and it's something so shocking or exciting happens. It stops the mind. So what happens is, we think it's the roller coaster or the adventure that we're going on that is exciting and giving us pleasure, but it's actually the silencing of the mind that happens from those moments. And when you are in a state of perpetual meditation, the bliss that you get from those states far exceeds anything that you get from something exciting you outside in happening in front of your awareness, because that bliss is already bubbling naturally inside of you, and you don't need anything else externally to excite you for it. So for them, it might look, oh, like this guy is sitting down, he's boring, he's just sitting down and meditating, or he's enjoying himself in nature or whatever. But they don't understand that the bliss that he has is what they are trying to find on the outside through all kinds of myriad of experiences and roller coaster rides and movies and all those other things that to cure their boredom, you see. He's found the source of it all.
So in a way, it's true to say that when you find that level of bliss and happiness and contentment, that your desires are actually less, that you desire less because you don't need those things so much.
Your desires are less, but they can also suddenly flourish and become a lot, but they won't be your desires anymore. It would just be the universe using you as an expression to get things done in the world. So you might suddenly have a desire, oh, you know what, I want to build a school. Or you know what, I want to go for a walk in a specific place. Or you know what, I want to write a book. Or you know what, I want to go to work and build a company. You do not know how the universes might work through you at that point. The only thing you can see is that it's not a personal self, a small, tiny, personal, selfish kind of desires that are arising, that are the type that which wants to gain and take from the world around it. It's usually one which is bound by service, by expression of love, by expression of interest, or wanting to express oneself into the world, like an art form. It'll take on those kind of qualities within you. That's how you know.
So would you say that that's like expressing the best of you, using all your talents and abilities and the things that you may have been gifted, that you've come here with, maybe gifts that you've come here with?
It's much higher than that. It's much higher than that, because it's not just about expressing the body-mind's capabilities. It's about expressing something so much greater than this limited body-mind. Sometimes we think about the self, the small self, and saying, how can I best serve the world? And then we think about, oh, I love art. Oh, I love maths. Oh, I'm not a maths person. And then we try to fit ourselves into the world, into fulfilling something like that, which is this Japanese concept of like ikigai and those kind of things, where it's like you're trying to find your passion. But this is so much greater. This is something else that can undo any form of conditioning, can channel knowledge to you that you've never had before, can make you speak in a way that even if you've never had any kind of speaking capability, or you will just suddenly start speaking like the most amazing orator. It is supremely magical. Just like that friend of mine who was able to deliver a discourse in something extremely technical when he didn't even study anything about it. The technical knowledge on that IT stuff just came straight through him, and he didn't even prepare at all. It's so much more magnificent than this limited body-mind complex that we have.
I have had experiences when I was teaching quite high-level maths at one point, where there were some things that I came across and I thought, I'm just not getting this. I'm not getting it. It's just because it also has changed from the time, 25 years ago when I qualified. It's been changing over time. And so the methods and techniques these days are not the same as what was learned, certainly when I was a child and when I started teaching. And so I asked for help from up above. I said, can I have a little help here, please, guys? Because I'm really not getting this. And then all of a sudden, all the answers started to come into my head. So I looked at all these answers, worked them out with a calculator, and they were all correct. But the thing is that I didn't need the answers. I needed to know how to teach it. So I said, thank you for the answers, but which was amazing in itself. That, I didn't have to do a calculation. The answers just came as soon as I read the question. The answers are in my head. I said, I need to know how to teach this to other children, so I need to be able to explain how this works. So I thought that was like the universe having a little bit of a joke with me, having a little laugh about the answers are no problem. It's harder to actually remember the method and then be able to teach others the method as well. So I do believe we have access to all knowledge if we're open to that. There isn't anything that we don't actually have knowledge access to if we want it, if we're sincere enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. What would you, if you were just to give us 3 steps for people to take to move into a place where their manifestations are more easily able to flow, what would be the first 3 things that you would say to somebody to help that along?
Okay, so going back to that master formula, right? The master formula is your desires, your ability to manifest, etc., is inversely related to the strength of your ego. So what you want to do is you want to diminish your ego slowly over time. And how would you do that? Okay, so the first thing is through a formal meditation practice. Okay, and it's not just any guided meditation practice you can take. It is a meditation practice that fundamentally establishes you in the state of pure being. That is the criteria. Because when you dip yourself into the state of pure beingness beyond the mind, what happens is that slowly starts to dissolve the ego. Every time you meditate and you dip yourself into the state of pure being, when you come out of that meditation, a little bit of your ego will start to be erased bit by bit, and you will start having that sense of pure being, pure awareness, saturate your body, mind, and your body conditioning, right? It will clean up your body conditioning and saturate a pure state of being throughout your whole self. So that is the first thing, a formal meditation practice that lets you get established in the state of pure being. The second thing, okay, would be outside of your formal sitting practices when you're going about your day. okay? Your ability to surrender and let go and let the universe take control while you still take proactive action to perform all of your duties and perform all of the work that and the right thing at the right time, but at the same time being able to practice surrender towards any outcome that appears. Say you're trying to drive to work. Your goal is to get to work by say 8:30 in the morning, but you are driving and suddenly there's a huge traffic jam. Okay, so now the tendency for most people is to get frustrated. But can you still drive and do your best of your ability to drive, but be completely okay with the fact that there is a traffic jam, completely surrendered to the fact that, look, there is a traffic jam and it's natural for traffic jams to happen and that's just the way things are and I've got nothing to do with it and you're perfectly okay. So your happiness is not going to be bound by any external circumstance that occurs. So you start practicing this during your waking hours. That means you're doing the work, you're operating as if, but you're completely surrendered in the process towards any outcome. Okay, so that's the second practice that I would say. The third practice, okay, is to conduct a thorough, deep self-inquiry into the nature of who you truly are, which is your pure self. So how do you do that? You do that through introspection into who you truly are. Are you the mind? You're definitely not the mind. Are you the body? No, you're definitely not the body because the body is external to you. The mind is something that you can truly just witness occurring in your awareness. So you are not the mind. Are you the emotion?
It really is a little monkey. The mind doesn't switch itself off, does it? The mind, no. It will say this good thing on the one side and then this good thing on the other, and it never stops. You can't turn it off. It's just constant chatter unless you do things or choose or have some desire to actually quieten that, because this in itself can just make you so tired and fatigued and drained just because that's going on. It's just using your energy all the time.
Yeah, one of the easiest way to stop the monkey mind is don't mind the mind. The mind, whenever it does whatever it wants to do, just let it do what it wants to do. If it wants to chatter, let it chatter. When it realizes that you're unbothered by what it wants to do, it'll stop bothering you. But when it knows that you're irritated by it jumping around and being a monkey mind, it will be more of a monkey mind. It will want to play with you. But when you notice it just running around or doing whatever it wants to do or showing you things, and you just say, okay, do what you want to do. I am not the mind. I'm that which is the perceiver of the mind. I'm that which is the pure witness noticing. And you just allow the mind to do what it wants to do. Then it's like almost like you shine the spotlight of awareness on the monkey mind, and then it kind of shies away, knowing that you caught it. So
yeah,
it'll start to slowly, slowly not want to be. It will slowly stop bothering you, right? So
would
that third,
you
yeah,
say that there's because certainly for me, my love of meditation was to switch that off, but it never got switched off just through meditation. So would you say that takes some something more than just sitting? Because I think it's lucky if you can get into that awareness at some point that I can observe my thoughts. But I think when people very, very first start, there's no separation between. It's like I am my thoughts. There's no separation, and I think that's very hard, because when you're the thinker of when you are actually thinking your thoughts and you believe you are your thoughts and you don't see the separation, you can't actually easily break through from that. And I remember the very first time that it happened when I saw somebody, I was in a meditation and somebody said, look at your thoughts and see what's happening. And for the first time, when I looked, it was like observing Piccadilly Circus, and anyone that knows London will know how busy those trains are. They're zooming backwards and forwards at hundreds of miles an hour. So as I was watching these thoughts going by at hundreds of miles an hour, each one, I became tired in those moments just looking at those trains. But then I had that moment of detachment when I realized, hang on a minute, who is it that's looking at these trains? I thought the trains were me inside my head, but I've just seen them, so I'm watching them. And as I continued to watch them, the trains actually got slower and slower and slowed down. Yeah. And it was a wonderful moment of realization that I am not my thoughts.
Yeah. And when you're able to watch the mind and you're able to detach from it, it is like, imagine a boiling water, right? It's like pulling out the fire from underneath boiling water. So
Yeah.
you pull out the fire, and for a while there'll still be bubbles, but the bubbles will start to slowly go down. It's like that, because you're
Yeah.
not feeding it with your consciousness anymore.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were saying that that was the third step, is that
Yeah.
awareness?
So the
So
third step, yeah. So you're not the mind, you're not the emotion. Emotions come and go. You're that which witnesses it. So you remove yourself from all these things and you identify what's left. And when you what's left is essentially the just pure state of awareness, the pure state of being, the pure state of emptiness, which is also just by nature peaceful, blissful, completely at ease. And then you realize that, oh my goodness, when I'm not the mind, I'm not the body, I'm not the emotions, what's left? I'm that pure state of pure being, you know? And that is who you are, you know? And then from that perspective, if you do that practice, so you combine these three things together. First is the formal meditation practices that establish yourself in the pure state of being. Second being during the day, that element of surrender and action together. And the third being this process of self-inquiry. If you follow these things, the tendency is, you would get to that master key or that elixir of the law of attraction, which is essentially being able to empty yourself, and then whatever desires that occur are not yours and hence will be fulfilled automatically.
okay. When you say they're not yours, is it that you're that open that it kind of comes to you what the things that you should desire, or is there a merging of this is what I desire and source merges with you, so it's like our desire? How do you experience?
When I mean that it's not yours, is because there is no other you. There's no other identity there. So any desire that just comes, whether it's to eat a cookie or to eat a banana or to go and build a company, there's no identity there anymore. There's no person. It's all just the universe in action. So there is no even a concept of it being yours versus anyone else's, because there's no one else. It's all God. It's all the universe. So even if at that time suddenly, I feel like eating a banana will just come to you. If you feel like eating an ice cream, somehow or another, someone will just come and give it to you. Or you'll have to go out and buy it. Whatever that steps you'd have to do, you just do it. You want to build a company, and because you have to help, the only thing you'll notice is that the tendency is that the desires at that moment in time usually won't be selfish in nature, won't be trying to hoard or grab. You'll notice that it's almost, you will still get money from it, but you will not be, it won't be the thing that's driving you. It is something greater that's driving you at that point. It's a selfless kind of desire. Selfless, because there's no small self there. Yeah.
But the main self is there, the pure I.
Yeah, the pure self, not the false self. Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds really lovely. Can you tell us about a more spiritual experience where you've had that's manifested, something that's really out there and unbelievable?
I have too many examples. I can't even begin to.
You maybe just share one or two?
Yeah, okay, I'll give you an example. I'll give you something that happened recently. Well, it's kind of a revelation. So years ago, when I was in Qatar and I met you, Veena, 5 years ago, I would say, even before that, I had certain desires about what I wanted to achieve. I wanted to manifest a certain job. I wanted to go overseas. I wanted to get a job in yada yada, and I wanted to live a certain life overseas, take my family to Disneyland, etc. And when I was doing all of that, I actually manifested it in Qatar, right? You were there, you saw, so I was with my family and everything. Took my kids out to Disneyland and whatever. And I thought at that point in time, I manifested it. Arvind manifested it. Okay, through his law of attraction, mastery of the laws of attraction, all right? This small, limited self, Arvind managed to do that. 2 weeks ago, in real time, I found an old astrological reading, which was done for me in 2005. Okay, that's 18 years ago. 2023 minus 2005 is 18 years ago. And this was done by an astrologer from South India in these leaves, these Nadi leaves, okay, where they were able to foretell my future. And there was only one leaf written specifically for me. And it was my mom's friend, my friend's grandmother, that took me to see these people in a temple. And the person spilled out my whole life onto this. And I just took notes on this astrological reading. And I wasn't married at the time. I didn't have kids, nothing. And so I found that old reading 2 weeks ago. And I thought I lost this reading because it's been 18 years. Randomly, I just found this file and I opened it and I found my old reading. And guess what? It said I would marry the person it described my wife exactly as she was. It said, you'll marry someone of the same race, different religion from you, should have this kind of birth sign, she'd be born on this day. And true enough, I did marry the person. It said, you'll have 2 kids, 1 boy, 1 girl. And true enough, I did have 1 boy, 1 girl. It said, and then the funny thing is, the crazy thing is this, it said, on this age, you will leave your country, you will go northwest of the place where you were, northwest of the place you were born, and you'd be involved in training on this age, and you will shuttle between these 2 countries for a few years. And at that age, when it said in the reading, was exactly when I left for Qatar, and I was in Qatar. And that's exactly where I went, northwest of my capital, and exactly. So from the micro perspective, there I was thinking, I manifested this, I visualized, I did this, I did that. And then here it is, 18 years ago, there's this reading which some guy gave me, some priest or sage or whatever, and it literally just spilled out everything about my life. So what does that mean? I was shocked when I saw it. I'm still shocked. I'm still trying to find out. And I'm still trying to find the guys that did it, and I can't find them. I tried searching online, I can't find them.
That's a little bit of the story and the secret, isn't it? When there's the guy that says he actually wanted this great big house and he'd forgotten all about it and he'd moved in, and it was only when his son said, what's the law of attraction, Daddy, or something.
Yeah, but Veena, I didn't even think about it. This was some random reading. I took it, I put it in my file. I didn't look at it for 18 years. I forgot about it.
It appeared random, but we're obviously meant to look at it at exactly that time to show you that you were on track.
I didn't even, look. I'll be honest, I didn't do anything. I was not using that as a guide or nothing. I lost it. I thought I found the file 2 weeks ago. I thought I was going to throw it out. I didn't know what it was. Then I opened it and I saw it still had my high school logo thing on it, because I used the notepad of my high school logo on it to write that thing.
Am I allowed to ask you if you've got any nice events coming up on there? Did it go further?
The funny thing is, it's interesting, right? The reading kind of not ended around this time, but it just went very vague for the next couple of things. But it was okay. It did say some things, which, well, we'll see. Time will tell, right?
Yeah, but moving countries and wife and children, and to get that specific with, you had your beautiful daughter first, and then your lovely little son came along afterwards.
It said you will marry someone that starts the name. Let me tell you how specific it was. It said you'll marry someone of same race, different religion from you. Her name will start with J. She'll be born on this day, and she'll have this astrological sign in her chart. And that's exactly who the person I married. And I didn't even look at the damn thing.
I know what that is, because her birthday is the day before mine, and we celebrated one year. That was beautiful. Yeah. So that's very, very specific. Very specific.
Very specific. So I'm at a loss for it, because there I was thinking, I manifested it. I thought this. I visualized this. But hey, my God, 18 years ago, before I even read it. So this was even before I read The Secret. So I read The Secret when I was 21. This happened when I was in 2005. 2005. It was 18 years ago. Yeah, either after I read The Secret or No, much before I read The Secret. No, so, yeah, I didn't even read The Secret. That's I didn't even know what I was doing. So it's just crazy how this whole thing, it's like one cosmic joke.
Dance
Right?
or a joke? Maybe both. A funny dance.
A funny dance. Funny
Yeah.
dance, yeah.
Okay, so we've been talking for a little while now. So unless you've got anything major that you would like to share with us before we bring this to a close, I do want to ask you, because it's come to my attention again that people are again in a lot of fear when they hear about things like banks. Banks are closing, and sometimes there are terrible things that are happening on Earth, natural calamities and so on, and very difficult circumstances. What would you say? What could you say to people to prepare for? Inevitably, we're all going to have ups and downs. That's the nature of life. But what would you say to anyone who's kind of in the grips of fear now, worrying about they're going to lose their money or their home or worse? What would you say?
Okay, so my recommendation would be this. So from what I've studied from the texts and from a lot of these metaphysical teachings, okay, the laws of the universe will operate. The laws of cause and effect will operate, okay, upon the world. That is a given. Empires will rise and fall. Financial times will be good and bad. If now it's a challenging time, the teachings are very specific, and they actually give you a recommendation that can actually save you from the suffering of cause and effect. And the method to do it is to absolutely surrender to the force of the divine. Now, that can be any force that you would like to take. It doesn't matter your religion, your religious background, or even if you're a scientist or you're an atheist. If you're a scientist and atheist, you take refuge in the cosmic magnificence of the universe itself, and you surrender to a million trillion causes and conditions that could occur. And when you learn to create a loving relationship with the divine, whatever form that is in, you could even, so traditionally, if you come from a Christian background, that could be Christ. If you're a Hindu background, let that be Krishna or Shiva, or if you're a Muslim, Allah or whatever. The idea is to have a relationship with the divine, and to have and build an element of complete and total surrender in relationship with the divine. Because what if you look at all the texts from whatever spiritual tradition out there, or even the occult traditions, right? When you're able to completely surrender to the divine, what happens is the laws of nature are structured in such a way is that they serve the cause of that source of the divine that is unfolding. So even if there is a collapse of finance or financial banks or whatever, if you have completely and totally and utterly surrendered and created a relationship with source, you would not suffer the consequences of those lower laws of the operating universe. You would be somewhat preserved by the superior laws that are sort of governing those lower laws. So reference to this is the Kybalion Hermetic text explains this in detail if you want to go into it, but you would see the same teaching sort of reflected in almost all spiritual traditions. And that would be my recommendation. Have a relationship with the divine, cultivate that relationship, and develop surrender.
I do believe that. May I tell you one very short story?
Yeah.
One day, I can't remember what the discussion was, but I was discussing something with my mom, and I'd let her know that I was, arguing and saying, why, with the divine, why are you doing it like this? And why is it like that? And she said to me, oh, Veena, is that how you speak to God or divine or source? And I said, well, yes, I need answers. And she said, oh, you should never speak to up above like that. She said, But what she does is she says, "Good morning, I love you so much. Thank you for this and thank you for that." And it was so sweet and so lovely. And I noticed that, you know, a lot of the things that she wanted, it was just coming her way. She didn't seem to have any problems and everything was so easy. And I did think, okay, I'll give that a try. And it did make all the difference. So if we think that we always hear, I know that lots of people don't like the word God, but lots of us have been brought up with that word God. God is love. If there's a being of love, and if the law of attraction works, then the love in my heart and the love that's with that divine being of love is more attracting if I'm also in the state of love. I think that's
Yeah.
better than
Yeah.
other.
I mean, if traditional religion is kind of like you're allergic to it due to whatever, background or whatever, take up any form of the divine you like. There's the whole, goddesses, gods, anything that resonates with you, anything that inspires you, just don't be bound by a box and you have to fit it in a certain box. The divine is so supreme, he can take any form to suit whatever your heart desires. So whatever calls to you, just take that, even if it's the formless form, even if it's the formless energy of source that you want to connect with, just go ahead.
Yeah, just try it until you get it right. Fake it till you make it.
Try it until you get it right. You'll be guided, actually, when you go on this path. Naturally, you'll be guided by forces far beyond you.
That's right. This is why I'm always advocating meditation, is because once you give yourself that little space, immediately there'll come little bits of guidance, and if you just keep following the path and following the path, then the bigger, you get the breadcrumbs to begin with, and then the loaves of bread start raining in from above, which is really lovely. Yeah. Finn, I want to thank you for this time that you spent and all this wonderful information, and not only that, the lovely vibrations that you share as well. So kind and so loving. Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure, and I hope to be able to speak to you soon.
Yeah, me too as well, Veena. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and wishing all your listeners all the peace, happiness, bliss, abundance, and all the good things in the world.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.
If you like this, please do subscribe, like, comment, and share with your friends. The more you can discuss these ideas, the more you can create an energy that attracts what you want. If you would like to read my book, Intention Meditation, for easy guidance, practical help with meditations, and to upgrade your life in every area, it's available on Amazon.com as Kindle, paperback, and hardback. If you're interested in coaching, meditation, psychic readings, and healing, please visit my website, which is in the description below, spiritualitywithv.com. Thank you for watching. You are much appreciated.